What is Mission to the Cities, and why is it important to fulfill the Great Gospel Commission?
We'll be discussing this with Doug Venn, the Global Mission Urban Center Director for the General Conference World Headquarters, today on Real Family Talk. Join us.
Welcome to Real Family Talk. During today's episode, we're talking with Doug Venn, the Global Mission Urban Center Director for the General Conference World Headquarters, about the importance of urban centers of influence and the Mission to the Cities initiative. Doug, thank you for being here today.
It's great to be with you.
Great. So, Doug, tell us how you got involved with Mission to the Cities.
Well, it started that our family, we answered Christ's call to share the gospel to the world. As it says in Revelation 14, verses 6 through 12, the gospel is to go to every nation, kindred, tongue, and people. So our family answered that call, and we went to Bangkok, Thailand, to start new groups of believers there, using centers of influence. These were platforms to meet the needs of the community, and whether through education or health. So that's what got us started.
That's amazing. So you mentioned centers of influence. So for our viewers, explain a little bit more about what centers of influence are.
Well, again, as Christ affects and changes our hearts, then we want to then share that love, that aroma of life with all around us. And so that's that positive influence. And so that's where we're wanting to use the platforms in these spaces to then meet the education or health needs of the community, as well as then to share the hope that we have in the gospel.
So the Seventh-day Adventist Church has a platform of sharing the gospel, church planting, and Ellen White speaks about this. Tell us about why that is so important to reach individuals, people in the large urban centers of the world.
Yeah. So using the three angels' messages as a platform, we're able then to meet the identified needs. And that's where when we have a chance to serve, then we have the opportunity to share. And so that's where right now hearts open up when we serve. That's how Jesus did when he would touch or heal a person, when he worked the cities of his day. And so that's where we're following his example.
But tell me, what's so significant about cities? Because we're talking about mission to the cities. Why the cities?
Well, the cities are where the people are today. And that's where we are being called to go and to share the gospel with those in the cities. And so that's where we as an Adventist family are then sharing the hope that we have in these urban contexts.
All right, so Doug, this is very exciting, and I love your excitement and your passion. And of course, we've known you for a very long time. In fact, we met you over a decade. Yeah,
of the Philippines.
That's correct. That's
Manila.
correct. Yeah. So just piggybacking on what you were saying about the three angels' messages, I think it would be great also, if we have viewers who really don't even know what are the three angels' messages and why is that significant to what we're doing here, to what you're doing?
Yeah. So as a movement of Bible prophecy, we see ourselves in those three angels' messages in Revelation chapter 14, verses 6 through 12. And that's where we see there's a call to accept the gospel and a call to go to every nation, kindred, tongue, and people. And guess where the people are today?
In the cities.
They're in the cities.
Absolutely.
And so that's why we have this mandate to go there. And so the other part is that there's a confrontation in society and systems that are wanting to take away our freedom of choice and our freedom of conscience. And so thus, again, we're calling that out, and that's the confrontation. But then there's a call for comfort as well, that the three angels' messages ends with that here is the patience of the saints and for those who have the faith of Jesus. And so that's where right now we are as a movement are sharing that hope in practical ways. And one of those platforms are centers of influence that we use in the cities.
So it's a way to reach people where they are.
Exactly right.
And we started talking about Ellen White, and and speaking about the formula that Christ used.
That's right.
So you mentioned one, which was he mingled with men and desired, as one who desired their good.
Yes.
So how does that fit into what you're doing?
Well, again, if you look at the social sciences and what business looks at, they describe this mingling as a third space. And so you can go to a local shop and get a hot drink or something like that, and it's the living room of the city. So in Bangkok, the living room was actually the sidewalk or the streets.
That's right.
And so
the
each
night
city.
market.
Or the night market, that's right. Each city has a different way of having those spaces. In some places it's malls, other places it's the street or cafes and these other places. So that's why we are wanting to be where the people are at and to mingle with them for the purpose of meeting needs and then sharing the hope that we have.
Wow. So you're saying that you're not starting by just inviting them to church.
Yeah, well, we can see that there are in some contexts that you can do a direct appeal, but in most contexts today, in the urban context, that's not going to work. And so that's why we've been following Christ's example.
Excellent. So we're talking about Jesus's methods.
That's
so
right.
number 2 is that he showed sympathy to people. He showed empathy, sympathy.
Yeah. And so we also, that sets the stage for part 3 of that, is that he ministered to their needs. And so that's where, whether it's education, I remember in one slum area that we used art or music. And so from those platforms, then we gained access to the people's heart.
That's amazing. All right. And so that sounds like it segues right into the next one, which is it won their confidence. He won their confidence.
Yeah. And so by serving, we are able then to gain access to the heart and win their trust.
All right. And then finally, what's the final thing that he did?
Well, that's where Jesus, again, in his holistic view, he then invited people to join him and to follow him.
So you see this as the gospel commission according to Christ's method.
That's right.
Now, what about those people who say, come out of the cities, that we should not be in the cities?
Jesus answers that question, and he points to prophecy. And so I think that we can also look at that today, that we can see the signs of prophetic, the timeline, and then that's where we can make that decision by the Holy Spirit's guiding in our families.
This is exciting, Doug, and it sounds like what you're saying is that the Seventh-day Adventist Church has a people-centered approach.
That's right, Willie.
Through these centers of influence,
Right.
reaching them, meeting their needs, recognizing that everyone has a need for Jesus,
That's right.
whether they know it or not.
Correct.
And through these centers of influence, we're impacting them and reaching them where they are.
That's right.
So that's where we should be, in the city, reaching them with their needs so they know that Jesus is interested in them personally.
That's right.
We've been talking to Doug Venn, and after the break, we'll be back with Doug Venn and Mission to the Cities. Stay with us. On today's edition of Real Family Talk, we're talking with Doug Venn about the Mission to the Cities initiative of the World Church. Doug, thank you for being with us.
It's awesome to be here.
All right, so we got the basics covered in the first segment. So now we want to talk about some real centers of influence. So can you share with us what some of these projects look like?
Well, it's exciting to see that around the world that God is moving upon his people to care and to share. And so let's start off by your home church.
Yeah,
That's right.
I got the word from your pastor that your church is here in DC is actually extending its service by starting a new urban center of influence. And so what can you tell me about how you actually were serving there?
Oh, now
Yes,
you become
that's
the
right.
interviewer. Right, so our pastor, Dr. Emil Peeler, has been with us now for 5 years. And when he came, he recognized that there was a need in the community. Our community is actually, we're literally 1 mile from the nation's capital. And the church has been blessed to have this location that sits in the midst of a lot of young professionals, up and coming government workers, but also there's a community that is underprivileged.
Yeah.
And so he thought, let's start something, and why not a counseling center? Because in our church, we actually have several psychiatrists and mental health professionals. And so we were fortunate and blessed to partner with your office, and you were generous, and we were able to actually purchase a building. And we started a counseling center, and it has been thriving, and people are coming. We're also teaching 12-step programs. We're also teaching nutrition classes. We have a nutritionist on staff. She's in there doing wellness programs. So it's been a way to reach the community, and it sits right on a corner across from the church. So it has high visibility, and people are able to see it if they're just walking by on the street.
So I love the fact that here you're the host and you actually have street experience of actually helping to teach at this platform that's serving the needs. Because what I've learned that every city, every neighborhood is different, but yet we're all humans. And so the need that Dr. Peeler shared with me as we looked at that neighborhood was there's not access to public health counseling.
So it's underserved.
It's underserved.
Yes.
And so that was one area that I was excited to see how God moved your church and your involvement personally. So anyway, I did some research, and so I'm happy to find that out.
Right. Yeah. So I am on the staff of the mental health professionals, and I have had the opportunity to present workshops on Zoom for particularly my areas, women, depression, anxiety, and just aging issues. And so it really has been a privilege and a pleasure, because a lot of times we feel as members, and especially as workers, we work for the church, how do we get involved on a local level? And so that means a lot for us. And Willie is actually the pastor for families at the church. And so we have the opportunity to work with our family ministries team and to get involved.
And not to only be theoretical, but to be practical, to get your hands dirty. I mean, and it's just wonderful what these centers of influence are doing, meeting a need and filling a niche, if you will, where there is a vacuum, so that people know that the church is much more than just preaching doctrines. We're preaching Jesus, and Jesus is one who's interested in people's needs.
That's right.
Tell us about some more of those other centers of influence around the world.
So if we go to Tokyo, I had the privilege of meeting Aya and her new home. God moved her and her husband. Her husband's not a believer, but she is. But they were looking for a place because after school, they were kind of the neighborhood hangout place for the children, because they were because the love of God moving in Aya then flows out to the children. So God opened the door for them to, as they were looking for a new home from one apartment, they found a place that they now have access and have a beautiful kind of first floor open space. And so that's where the kids can come, hang out, do some tutoring, and that's where they also get to learn about Jesus. So that's a family using their home, opening the hearts of the community by sharing the love of Christ. And so here we heard the first example was how at one church,
Washington, D.C.
in hitting Washington, D.C.
Now we're talking about Tokyo.
That's right. That's right.
That's
so
fabulous.
One family using their home as a platform.
That's amazing. And so how did they become a center of influence? Because we spoke about a church, an entire organization, but this is just one family.
That's right.
So you're saying that other families could actually get involved in becoming a center of influence?
God, because we have such creativity, and each family has been given skills and opportunities, whether it's hobbies or these other passions, to then actually serve. Let's go to New Zealand for the third example. There, ADRA New Zealand has organized, working with the community foundations as well as the Adventist Church, to actually have different programs there. And one of them that I had a chance to visit was what they call Welcome Baby. And it's a mobile baby clothing bank, what they call.
Oh, wow.
And so that's where they offer to young families a chance to then actually give baby clothing as a library. So I've checked out books at a library, but
As
you
a
know,
library.
as
Does it mean that you have to return them when you're done
well,
using them?
not the diapers, but at least
clothing.
the clothing. Yeah. So then that way, as the child grows, whether it's a boy or girl, then that way they're able then to pass that on to other children.
And where in New Zealand is it?
In Auckland, New Zealand.
Okay, so another large city.
That's right. And so it's exciting to see how God is using, whether it's one family, one church, or in this case it's ADRA, to then actually impact the families who need this assistance. In ADRA, they did the research and they actually targeted families who don't have the finances. It's either paying their rent or buying food, and that's where this financial support of providing the kids' outfits for the first 6 months and then the next 6 months is such a blessing.
Right.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
remarkable.
Yeah.
I mean, that's helping families right where they live and right where it really impacts their lives and finances.
Yeah.
And so they have, is it that it moves around to different neighborhoods, underserved, underprivileged neighborhoods?
Yeah, so what they've done is they've been able to partner with the local hospital or local social services or the local schools to then find out who are who are in need of this program.
Right, right.
That is just simply wonderful. I'm very excited about that program. We have to take a short break, but when we return, we'll keep talking with Doug about how you can get involved in helping others. Real Family Talk will be right back.
Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. We've been enjoying chatting with Doug Venn about the Mission to the Cities initiative. Now, Doug, how can we get involved? If anyone wants to get involved, I heard you say a little bit about that in the last segment. Can you say some more about how people anywhere around the world can get involved with the Seventh-day Adventist Church in being a part of this Mission to the Cities initiative?
Yeah, great question. I'd like to share our website resources there, and you can find all kinds of ways to actually get involved as a family. But I'd like to share one story from how our family shared when we were serving in Bangkok. I worked in different at-risk and underprivileged communities, and there as a family, what can we do? What could my small children do? And so they were full of energy, and so what we would do is on Sabbath afternoons, we would then go and share and have a prayer with different people. I remember going to give the grandmas a prayer and the kids would give them a hug or a picture, or we'd sing a song. And so that's where as a family we'd practice the Thai songs, and you'd see their faces just beam. And so that's a practical way. And so to take what skills and abilities that you have as a family, we could sing and we had access to these at-risk communities. And so that's where we did that as a family. There are some other ways that as families worldwide can do even right now in their home, and that's pray. And the call to pray for the cities and the people there is something that each family can do.
And you have something special.
I do.
A prayer map, and that
That's
you're going
right.
to talk to us about, that everyone, anywhere around the world can get involved in.
That's
so
right.
if you think, oh, this sounds exciting, and this is something I'd like my family to be involved in, how can our families be involved in the Mission to the Cities initiative?
Yeah, so one of those is the prayer map, and we have the pocket-sized version, which kind of unfolds, and the links will be there at the website, so you can then look that up, as well as then we're making this available in different languages. And so that's where you can start off. We have, and it's like a subway map, and you have the regions of the world, and then the cities that are located in those regions. We didn't put every single city, but these are the cities or the urban areas that have a population of 1 million or more. We didn't put every city on the map, but we put the cities that have a population of 1 million people or more. So we have the pocket size right here, and then we have a poster size. So if you'd like to have that at your home, and you can download these or contact us, and you can actually take your family
like
on
a
a
subway
tour
map, huh?
on a tour of the cities around the world.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful, because that would be such a wonderful activity for families to do with their children.
That's right.
You know, if you're looking for a special
Project,
worship activity,
Yes.
and they can choose a different city, and it's educational. They
That's
can
right.
research this particular city. So that's really amazing.
Yeah.
What else do you guys do with that? What are you encouraging the families to do?
Yeah, so this is not only have a chance to pray for the cities, but then, like you said, do some research. Some people may have a chance to go and do a vacation, or maybe go on a weekend to say, hey, we're going to go and try the food of that place. Get a recipe from, in our case of Bangkok, Thailand, to make some delicious pad thai noodles, and to say, hey, this is what they eat there, or to actually travel. And so there's different ways that families can actually use this as a part of their family worship, to then actually start interceding and uplifting, to pray for we've heard feedback from other families who are doing this, that maybe they're praying for the leaders of that city, that God will give them wisdom, that they will also have access to the gospel and the hope that we have in the three angels' messages. Others have been praying for the schools, whether they're public schools, the elementary schools, the universities. So that's another way to pray around the cities, is actually go to your local school and do a prayer walk there. But not only pray for your city and that school, but then to use that as a springboard. So let's go to Bangkok, and as we're walking around this one, let's start praying for the schools and the boys and girls and the teachers and staff, that they will be able to experience the hope that we have in Christ.
This is wonderful. I noticed as you open your prayer map that there were different color codes, and if I saw it correctly, it looked like it was codes of regions of the world.
That's
in the
correct.
Seventh-day Adventist Church.
Yes.
And the Seventh-day Adventist Church is organized in 13 world divisions, and I saw colors for each of those world divisions.
That's correct.
I saw one for the East Central Africa division.
That's right.
That's
Each field-
headquartered in Nairobi, Kenya.
Yep.
I saw one for the Trans-European division, which is in St. Albans in England, right outside of London.
That's
So
right.
you can actually go to the different colors there and pick a place. Perhaps people who are listening, if you have an affinity to that ethnicity or to that region of the world, you can in fact go there and find the cities of 1 million or more,
Correct.
and pray specifically for God's power and God's grace and God's love and God's people to meet those needs
Correct.
of people in the city. Because after all, that's who Jesus Christ died for
That's right.
people. And most of them are in the city.
Yeah.
And if he's going to come back for them, we're going to have to tell them and share the good news of salvation. Back to the three angels' messages, that it's what it's about. That at the end of time, there are going to be two powers, the power of God and the opposing power.
Correct.
And the point here in Mission to the Cities is, how can we share the love of God so that it's, instead of being controlled by the power of the evil one, we're controlled by the Spirit of God.
Amen.
So that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Help hasten the coming of Jesus Christ. And your initiative is an amazing one that's pushing us to do it, and that keeps it in front of our eyes and our faces, and just fuels, if it were, the energies of the people of God. And what a wonderful work you're doing, Doug.
Well, thank you so much for your partnership. I know that this is through the initiative of Mission to the Cities that we're wanting to reach the families in the city. And that's where there's many resources at your website. I know
That's
that
right.
I'm always a cheerleader for those, whether it's Bible study resources or your other, the plan book and these other things that to have. These are so important that today I think that with the prayer map, it also is educational and as well as inspirational to then call all believers to then start interceding and to take action led by the Holy Spirit into these cities.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Doug, for being with us. This is so exciting. I hope you will come back with us, and we truly pray that God will continue to bless your amazing work.
You know, as followers of Jesus, He has commissioned each one of us to go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. We encourage you to be faithful to your calling and to be a part of this great movement in Mission to the City.
Thank you for watching Real Family Talk. Join us again when we'll share more about strengthening families and inspiring hope. See you next time.